You can't have as much population growth as we have and not see this. When vacancy is at under 2%, there's essentially almost nothing to rent. The problem with housing is it takes a long time to come online. So we have never been able to really increase housing supply in this country. The market overall, it's not healthy to have this low of vacancy, in my opinion. When there's a correction, that's when it's the hardest time to raise capital, the hardest time to get financing, but it's the best time to buy. Today I'm going to do a solo episode, talk about what we've seen in the market in the last couple months, what I think we're going to see going forward, some of the stuff we're up to as a company. Before I get started, if anyone wants to ever watch the video of the episode, we upload everything to YouTube. You can go check it out there. I have my wife, Kelsa, coming on the podcast, and it'll be one of the next couple episodes. If anyone has any questions for her, let me know. Send me a message. You can direct message me on Instagram. It's always going to be me that answers. Or send me an email. She's got kind of a unique take on our business, being a woman in real estate, running a business and a family, right? Working with their spouse. There's things like that. I'd be the vision of the company. She's the one that implements everything. So we kind of have two different sides of it. So if anyone has any questions, send them over my way and we'll get to them on the episode. As far as the market, it was kind of a weird year. 2023, we didn't see a lot of deals. We put a few offers in, but we didn't see a lot. Right at the end of the year, we put something under contract, and we'll close on that in April. That'll be the biggest asset we bought to date, so I'm really excited about that. Great piece of property. Once we take it over, I'll give you guys some more details on that. But aside from that, there just really wasn't a lot that came up. I think a lot of people, if they had the ability to hold it, they could see that the upside was coming and didn't want to sell. CMHC lengthening amortization period, when they did to 50 years, that helped as well because people who had debt coming up weren't forced to sell. They could amortize it longer and make sense of it. I think a lot of people had held property for a long time without seeing rent appreciation. And when it came, in the last year, they just wanted to take advantage of some of that. Finally, we're starting to see it. And the idea was that interest rates would come down. I don't think they've came down as quickly as people predicted. Whether we see that this year or next year, I do think it happens. But there's always going to be that spread there where rents have went up. Now interest rates come down, the building's worth more. So I think unless people were forced to sell, a lot of people hung on. That feels like it's starting to change a little bit, where we've seen quite a few deals in the last couple months, probably more than we've seen all of 2023. We put some offers on some stuff, and I know there's some properties coming up that we want to go after. So it feels like that's starting to lift. I think a lot of people have seen, like I said, they've seen some of that appreciation and are willing to sell now. I also think some of the bigger companies that we would buy from, they're looking down south, and the expectation is that there's going to be a correction there on the more institutional level stuff. And I think people would like to have some capital. So we might see stuff come to market and move to the States. So that's ideal for us. I want to be a really active buyer the next couple of years. So I hope, we need deal flow to do that. But as far as the rental side of the market, it's been crazy for a while now. They're feeling, I would say it's almost desperation from tenants. Like, we used to have quite a big ad budget. We'd be on every channel boosting ads just to fill units. I don't think we have anything listed, and we're getting more calls than when we did, and people are almost panicked. They just can't find places to rent. So that's putting a lot of pressure on rents to go up, and just, our turnover is half what it used to be. Vacancy is essentially zero, and that's kind of every operator I talk to. That's, a similar story. Vacancy's way down. People who've been in the industry a long time are underwriting bigger rent increases this year than they ever have before. So I think that's what we're going to see for the next, the foreseeable future. I think there's a lot of pressure on rents the next couple of years and prices. You can't have as much population growth as we have and not see this. When we first had the explosion of population, we had some units that could be absorbed. So even when I moved to the city, vacancy rate was around 7, then it dropped to 4 something, and then 2.6. That's supposed to be under 2 this year. And so all those units were getting absorbed by the people moving. Now you have the people still moving, and we have nothing for them to move into. There isn't 5% vacancy that can come down to 2. When vacancy is at under 2%, there's essentially almost nothing to rent. Like there's always units that are going to have to be turned over. There's some units that are listed that just couldn't be rented. So it's getting pretty close to zero vacancy. And in the country overall, I mean, we have the lowest vacancy of all time. The problem with housing is it takes a long time to come online. So we have never been able to really increase housing supply in this country. And now, even if we can, even if we could massively ramp it up, Pierre's running kind of a platform where he's going to, force cities to develop more. And even if we could do that, you start a project today, it's probably 2 years till it comes online. Well, during that 2 years, unless we massively slow immigration, we're still going to have people coming in looking for places. So I think the next couple of years in rental is really good. Probably single family too. You used to build, I think 20 years ago even, we built one house for every 4 people of population growth. And today we build one single family house for every 25 people. So a lot of people sitting on the sidelines right now, waiting for interest rates to go down, thinking that then they can afford a house. And I don't think that affordability comes for a long time, because when interest rates move down, the price is just going to go up. So it's really not going to make much difference. And there just isn't going to be the supply there. Royal LePage did a huge study, and I believe they said 1 in 5 Canadians want to buy another property or a rental property in the next 5 years. And again, that's something, we don't have the supply for that. So if people want to be invested in real estate, that's a big opportunity, I think, for companies like ours or companies that syndicate money, where people want to be invested in real estate. The idea of going out and buying a single family home for a second property, it's kind of getting unlikely. Like there's not enough houses for people who want to actually live in them. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of really good deals for second houses for rental properties. So that's a big opportunity. There's a lot of capital that wants to be in real estate. So that's exciting for us and companies that do something similar. But I think we'll start to see more deals come. And I don't know I feel like initially the pricing expectation is going to be really high, and we'll see if that balances out. But it was a really weird time where probably for the first time ever, interest rates went up as much as they did, but cap rates didn't move. So if you were buying a 5 cap 3 years ago and interest rates were 2%, that building's still a 5 cap, and now interest rates are 5. So it was a weird time when usually cap rates would have to go up and there'd be some spread. But obviously, like I said, CMHC adjusted lower money down, longer amortizations, and I think it kept them where they are. But to me, it looks like then if interest rates start to come down, if there's still this pressure to buy, lots of people waiting to buy, I think that the cap rates will start to compress. And if that happens, that's a massive win for anyone holding real estate. If you're holding a deal and it moves from a 5 cap to a 4.5, there's a huge amount of equity got built and nothing really happened. Or if it moves from 5.5 to 5. So I think if interest rates come down in any meaningful way, we might see some cap rate compression. That'll make it very hard to buy property, but it'll be great for sellers. And I do think, I think there's going to be upward pressure on rents for a while now. In Edmonton in particular, we're still so affordable. Like I just read an article how 1-bedrooms here rents went up 30% in the last year, and that was the highest asset in Canada as far as rent growth. It was 1-bedrooms here. But we're still the 21st most affordable city in Canada. There isn't really 21 cities that people want to live in Canada when they move here, and Edmonton's probably the most affordable of all of them. We're still, around that 30% income to rent ratio, whereas Toronto, Vancouver, some of the major cities are 70 to 80. So rents here could essentially double, and we're still not going to be unaffordable compared to those places. I don't think we see rents double in the next 3 years, But I think we do see a lot of rent growth, and obviously that adds a lot of value to the property. So it'll be good for owners. It's not great for renters, but we know it's done in other cities, so it's not like people won't be able to afford if it goes to 50%. So I think there is some room there, but the market overall, it's not healthy to have this low of vacancy, in my opinion. You need to have a couple percent just, so people have a place to move out, move in. And when people want to move here, you don't want to get unaffordable. Cities like Toronto, Vancouver, you can have a really good job and have to commute hours to work because you can't afford to live there. That's not good, in my opinion. That's not good for the city. But, what could change that would make things more affordable? We have so much pressure. We can slow down the immigration. We can try to ramp up building, but we're also running into an issue where lots of construction workers are getting to retirement age and we're not backfilling those spaces fast enough. So, but even if we could, it does take years for that product to come online. And I don't know, I think we have a couple years of really high rent growth, but we're not. For me, we never buy based on that. We want to be able to buy something today that cash flows today, and if we even get 2% a year averaged out over 10 years, we're really happy with that investment. If you have years like this where we're getting, 7 or 8%, that obviously that goes a long ways, and then if you have some down years or some flat years, it makes up for it. But I don't think, I think what happens in the good times is people start underwriting for future appreciation, and that's when prices kind of get out of hand. I'm currently rereading The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking by Phil Anderson. If you guys haven't read it and you're into real estate, I think it's an awesome book. It kind of walks through real estate cycles. So it's an 18.6 year cycle that he talks about. It's essentially a 20-year real estate cycle. It explains why it peaks and what causes the correction. And it's cool to look back when you read that book and then you look at what's happening in the country today. I mean, it's exciting for me because I think we have a couple more years of good, and then I think there's a correction. I hope there is. It's good for the market if there is. And it's rare in real estate to buy stuff at a discount. When you're buying larger multifamily, it's not common. Not a lot can happen that really discounts the property. So whenever those corrections happen is when you want to be able to go in and buy as much as you can. And you'll only get a few of those cycles in your lifetime. So for me, it's exciting to think that it's coming. At least it's not, again, we don't need that for our business model, but it would be good to happen. It's always scary when that happens, though, because, we own property too. So it's, the best time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. But it's also hard because a lot of it's your own blood. That's kind of a saying. But it's always, when there's a correction, that's when it's the hardest time to raise capital, the hardest time to get financing, but it's the best time to buy. So I think the correction comes in a couple of years. I don't think it comes now, but I think for the remainder of this year, from what we're seeing at least, there's a lot of pressure on rents to move up, very low vacancies, and even if they start building a lot today, I was just listening to an author on a podcast who wrote a book on how to fix the Canadian housing crisis. And he basically said, he lists all these things that we could do. And he said, if we did every one of them, it'll start to fix the problem in 10 years. And it'll be more reasonable, our housing situation, in 20 years. So that kind of gives you a picture of how bad it is and how long it takes to really fix the problem. So I don't have the solution for it. Obviously, it's good to be an owner if there's lots of demand. But overall, we need more housing. Or we need, to slow down the amount of people. But that's kind of a little snapshot of what's going on. We're taking over that property in a couple of weeks, and we'll do some content on that, show you guys what it is. I'm really excited about it. And like I said, we want to be active buyers through all cycles, but for sure the next couple of years going into where we think the cycle is going to be. If anyone's interested in what we do on the asset management side, you can always reach out. Again, just send me a message or an email. We can only work with accredited investors, but even if you're not accredited and you just want to chat or have a conversation, reach out. If you are accredited, interested in what we do, send me a message. And we're going to be in Toronto at the end of May. if we're going to be at the real estate investor conference. So I'm pretty excited about that. There's 6 of us from the company flying down. We're going to have a booth down there. So if you guys are going to be there, if you're from Ontario, come by, say hi. Or if you want to do a podcast or anything while I'm down there, let me know. Or if you're from somewhere else and you're going to be there, pop in. We'll be there for the whole thing. So we're pretty excited about that. Anyways, that's it for today. Like I said every time, but if you guys can just give us a rating, like, follow, subscribe, or share it with people that you think might enjoy it. It just helps get out to more people. Thanks for today.